Hi guys, this is Luke and welcome to another tutorial in the Django with JavaScript series. In this one we are going to count and visualize the number of customers that we have. So to be more precise, let's take a look at exactly what we are going to do. I'm going to scroll down just a little bit, and over here we have a counter, and if I scroll just a little bit more, it will execute and count the number of customers that we keep in our database. So if we take a look at the Django administration, here are all the objects that are created. What's worth mentioning is that the customer has to be active in order to be counted. So if I switch this from active to not active and save it, and then I'll go back and I'll refresh the page, it will count only to 19. All right, and then if I go back and make this active again, and I'll add another customer, by default this customer will be active. I'm going to save it and then hit refresh again. Let's scroll down and it should count to 21. And there it is. So this is exactly what we are going to do in this tutorial. Hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, without further ado, let's get started. Alright guys, so before we actually begin, let's take a look at what have I done so far. So I started a brand new project called CountProj, and I'm right now inside the settings.py file. If we scroll down to the installed apps list, we will notice that we've extended it by customers, and this is an application created for this particular project purposes, and we will begin by working with models.py file very soon, where we will create our customer class. Then if we scroll down again, we will also notice that the templates dears list is no longer empty. Here we told Django where to look for additional templates, and according to those settings we created a templates folder inside the source directory, and we've placed the base HTML file from which our main HTML will inherit from, and we'll take a look at both files very soon. Then if we scroll all the way down, we will also have some settings for the static files. Here we are telling Django where we will keep our static files, which are main.js and style CSS. So we have a static directory, and inside we have those two files, and we'll take a look at them very soon as well. But for now, let's jump into URLs.py. Over here, we included the static files in the URL patterns, and we created one additional path as the main path. And this is just a very simple class-based view defined in the views.py file in our customer's application. So this is the main view, which inherits from template view. And what we've did is just provided the template name, which is customers. So we are referring to the customer's application where we keep our templates folder, and inside we have another directory customers, and inside we have the main HTML. Then if we take a look at the style CSS, we have some styling for the body, the main section, the title, the counter section, the counter, the customers. Okay, so once we take a look at main HTML, this should be obvious. But for now, let's jump very quickly into main.js. Over here, we just have a console log hello world to be sure that everything has been linked up successfully. And what I mean by that is that if we take a look at our base HTML, over here we have our custom JS and CSS, where we are linking up our main.js and style CSS over here. Apart from custom JS and CSS, we have a section for jQuery, Google Fonts, Bootstrap CSS, although we don't need it that much. We have also inside the head the required meta tags, and then we have a body with the block content. So if we go now to main HTML, we'll notice that we are inheriting from base HTML, and we've provided some code in the block content. So over here, we opened up the block content, and there we have the main section. So this is basically the main section. Then we have another div as the title which is this. And then if we go down, we will have the counter section, and this is this green box over here, this green background. And then we have inside the counter, which is this piece over here with the 0. And below we have customers. So this is exactly this. And yeah, right now we can actually jump into models.py file of our customer's application and begin coding. So let's do that right away. I'm going to go to the models, and over here I'm going to create a class customer, which inherits from models.model, and we will have two fields over here. The first one is going to be the name, and this is going to be a models char field with the max length, let's say 100 or 80. Let's do it 80, and then we will have active, and this is going to be a models boolean field with the default set to true. And let's return a string representation, return str self name. Okay, so we are referring to this field over here. And I'm going to save this, jump into the admin over here. From .models, we want to import the customer, and we want to register it in the admin. So admin site register, and we want to pass in the customer. So let's actually save this. Let's go back to the terminal, stop the server from running, Python manage py, make migrations, Python manage py migrate, and Python manage py run server. All right, so what we can do right now is jump into the admin. As you can see, I'm already logged in. I'm going to refresh the page, and here is our customer section, our customer application. Let's add a few objects. So I'm going to put in C1, save and add another one, C2, and I'm going to do it a couple of times, up to 10. All right, guys, so I created 10 objects. We have 10 customers, all of them are active. And right now what we can do is to go to the views.py, create another view in order to use AJAX and get the customer size number, okay? So this is exactly what we are going to do. Below the main view, I'm going to create a class called customer num JSON view, and this will inherit from view. So we are going to import view, put it over here. So we are inheriting from view, and here let's put in the get method, self args and keyword args. And what we need to do is also to import the customer and a JSON response. So let's do it right away. From .models, we want to import customer, and from Django HTTP, we want to import JSON response. So right now, let's define a variable called customer count or customer size. I'm going to go with customer count, and here what we are going to do is to put in customer objects, and then filter. We want to grab only the active ones, so let's put in active is equal to true, and then what we need to do is to simply count them. Count. Okay, so now we have this customer count, and we can return a JSON response. So return JSON response, and let's put in this customer count. So first we will create a key, and to this key we will assign the customer count variable. Alright, so we can actually save this. We need to register it in the URLs py. So let's jump into our count proj URLs py file, and over here we will begin by the import. So we have only main view imported, so let's also import the customer num JSON view, and below we will put in a path, and let's call it maybe customers JSON, something like this, customers JSON, and this is going to be customer num JSON view as view, and let's set the name to customers JSON. Name equals customers JSON. All right, so I'm going to save this, and we can jump into our main.js and use AJAX. So below the hello world, I'm going to put in a $sign AJAX, and yeah, the type is going to be get. Then what we need to do is to put in the URL. So this is going to be customers JSON, like this. And then we need to define what will happen on the success. So we want to have a function with a response. And of course, we want to console log the response. And then if something goes wrong, we want to have an error, which will also be a function that takes in an error, a response error, and it will return and inside we will put in a console log with an error. All right, so let's see if this is actually working. I'm going to save this, go back to our page, refresh, and there it is, customer count, and as you can see, the number is 10. All right, so if I jump into, for example, the 9th customer and switch it, activate to false, and then save it, and then refresh, we will have customer count set to 9. So this is working perfectly. I'm going to set it back to active. And right now what we can do is to define some other variables. So first of all, we need to grab the counter. In the main HTML, here's our counter, and we need to grab it. We need to set the counter value, which will be incremented up to the customer size. So I'm going to explain this in just a second. Over here, let's put in a constant that is going to be called a counter, and this is going to be a document get element by ID, and the ID was counter. So below we will define a let, and this is going to be a counter val, and we can set it to 0, or we can do it also with parse int, and then just put in the counter, and over here text content. This will give us 0 as well. So I'm going to leave it like this, but you can also set it simply to 0. Set it to 0. Okay, so this is the counter value that is going to be incremented up to the customer count, up to the customer size. So below, let's define another let, and this is going to be the customer size, and let's set it initially to 0, and it will change once we get the response. So here what I can do is to put in customer size is equal to response, and it's actually response and customer count. Let me go to the views. Yeah, I'm just going to copy this and put it over here. So right now we have this customer size set to response customer count. And yeah, we can cut this, and instead of console logging the response, we are going to console log the customer size. So let's see how this is working. I'm going to hit refresh, and there we have the 10. So yeah, what we can do next is to play around with this counter value. Let's try to increment it with certain defined time intervals. So I'm going to create another variable, and this is going to be update time, and I'm going to set it to 1 second, and then below the AJAX we are going to put in set interval, and we want to execute something with this particular updated time variable. So each second in this case we want to do something. So I'm going to put in update time, and for now I'm going to write down console log hello. So each second we should have a new hello. I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to refresh, and we have hello, hello, and as you can see, it's working. So if this is working, what we can do next is to actually increment our counter value that we defined over here. So let's do this. I'm going to put in counter val plus plus, and below we want to refer to the counter and text content and set it to counter value. So let's see right now what happens. I'm going to save this. I'm going to hit refresh, and as you can see, this is working. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then it goes on 11, 12, although we have only 10 customers. So obviously there's still a lot of things to do. However, we are getting closer and closer to finishing this project. So right now, let's try to limit this to the number of customers only. Okay, so what we need to do over here is to create an if statement. So I'm going to write down if, and then the counter value or counter val is smaller than the customer size. If this is the case, we want to execute this code. And if this is not the case, we want to stop this interval. So let's do something like this. I'm going to put a console log hello world again. Do we have a hello world at the top? Let's delete it. Let's keep it over here. And for now, actually, I'm going to get rid of those blocks. So we will have only an if statement. And if this is the case, we are going to execute, if this is the case, we are going to execute this code, and then we will see what happens to this console log hello world. So let's refresh. Hello world, hello world. Okay, we have the counter. Will it stop at 10, 9, 10? And then the hello world goes on and on. Okay, so this is working. And in order to stop this set interval, we are going to assign it to a variable. And I'm going to create over here a const. And this is going to be maybe something like run count. And then we have set interval, and we are executing this code. And in other case, we want to clear the interval. So let's put in clear interval, and then we need to pass in this run count. Okay, so let's save this. Let's hit refresh, and let's see what happens right now. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, it should be 11. And there it is, and it stops. All right, so this is working as well. I think we are ready to add the scroll event. So what we can do over here, let's do it for now, just below this. I'm going to put in window and add event listener, and we want to have the scroll event. And what I'm going to do over here is to create a variable position and assign it to window and then scroll y. Scroll y, there it is. And then I'm going to console log the position. All right, so let's see how this works. Refresh, and here is our position. Okay, so if we scroll down, let's say that somewhere maybe around 300, 310, we want to execute the counter. All right, so somewhere around here where we have 300s. Yeah, I think 300 will work. Okay, and in order to do that, we are going to need to do some additional stuff. So first of all, I'm going to create another variable called trash. This is our threshold, and I'm going to set it to 300. And over here, what we can do is to create another if statement. If position is larger than the trash, what we want to do for now is to execute this console log position. All right, so let's see how this works. I'm going to hit refresh, and I'm scrolling, nothing happens, nothing happens, nothing happens, and then there it is. If we reach 300, it begins to print out. Okay, so this is working. So as you can see, it started to print out from here. All right. The one thing is that we will execute this run count only once. We want to execute it only once. So we want this to be counted only once. And for this, I'm going to create another variable called counted, and I'm going to set it to false. Okay, so right now we have a flag over here, and we can actually extend this if statement. If position is greater than trash and the flag is not counted, and if the counted is false, we are going to first of all set the counted to true, and then we can actually grab this const run count and put it over here. So we have counted is equal to true, and then we are executing this part over here. So what we can do at the top is to put it in a function as well. I'm going to call it run counter. Let's put everything inside this round counter. And I'm going to take it maybe to the top, above the AJAX, and I'm going to run this counter on success. So over here, I'm going to delete this, and instead I'm going to put in run counter. And now I'm going to save this, hit refresh, going to scroll, and it starts counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And there it is. It counted to 10. So we can obviously adjust the speed. I'm going to get rid of 1, 0. I'm going to save this, refresh, We are scrolling, 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 and there it is. Okay, so if we do it, if we get rid of one more zero, it will be extremely fast. Let's refresh. Yeah, so yeah, this is working. And I'm going to change it to 100. And then if we add an object, so I'm going to put in C11, refresh, let's go all the way down, and 11. So everything is working perfectly. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I wish you all a great day and hopefully see you soon. Take care and bye-bye.